Hey everyone, this is Leo from Learn Do Learn, and today you are going to create a text-based role-playing game in Python even if you've never coded anything before in your life. Let's get started. First thing you need to know about Python is there are many different ways to run Python. Here we're using something called a Jupyter Notebook, which is just an interactive environment that runs in your browser and makes it very useful to play around with code. Later on we'll use a text editor. We'll probably use a combination of both throughout this video course, but for now we're going to use this, and if you're not familiar with it, go ahead and watch the video that comes before this that will show you how to get Jupyter installed and how to use it. Alright, let's start. Now I'm going to create an event ordering system. So I work a lunch counter at some event, and everyone can get a lunch pack. And if they choose to get a lunch pack, they'll get a sandwich. If they want a soda with that, they can get a soda, and if they chose yes for the soda, they can also get a shot of vodka. So if they want a lunch pack, they'll get a sandwich, then they'll be asked if they want a soda. If they say no, then they're not going to be asked. And the same here, if they don't want a soda, they're not going to be asked if they want a shot of vodka. So each question depends on the question before it. And probably the first thing we'd want to do is get their name. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go over here and we'll say, first of all, we'll give them a welcome message. Say something like, "Welcome to the lunch counter." And then we'll say, name equals input. What is your name? All right, I'm going to hit Control Enter to run that, and you can see it printed a greeting, and then it asked for the name. Now if you were in a text console, a command prompt, this would be printed out to the command prompt. So it should look pretty familiar. So I'm just going to say Leo and hit enter. Okay, what have we done here? We've actually done quite a bit, and we'll do one step further, and we're going to print out hi name. Okay, so we printed to the output, we asked someone for their name, and we took that information that they put in and assigned it to a variable, and then we reused that variable to print that name back to them. Now if you've never programmed before, a lot of this might not make sense, but it will very shortly. So we can go over some of this a little bit. Let's do that. First thing is print. What is print? Well, print is a function. And a function is just a piece of code someone wrote and gave a name to so you can reuse it. There are a lot of different functions, like we have print. Print will take some sort of argument that tells you what you want printed. So this is an argument. And when I run that, it's going to print what I gave it. I could also do a comma and something else. This is another argument. And functions have rules on what you can put inside of these parentheses, what the arguments can be, and you'll learn them over time. There are other functions like max will give you the maximum of the numbers that you put in. So if I say max 1, 4, 3, 2, it's going to return 4. So when I run this command with these arguments, it returns a value of 4. And I can also assign that value that's returned to a variable. When I run this, it doesn't print anything out because I haven't told it to. And what we've done here is we've said, take the maximum of these 4 numbers and then assign it to a variable named max number. And a variable is just a name you give a piece of data. More specifically, it's a name that references a location of memory on your computer. But that's probably a little advanced for now, and it's not that important. Just know that if you have a piece of data, you can assign it to a variable. And there are different types of variables that we're going to look at. But first, when I say there are built-in functions in Python, these are functions someone wrote that we can use. How do we know which ones exist? So the easiest way is to search for, generally I'll do Python 3 and what I'm looking for. So here we have built-in functions, and the first result here is that. And we can see a list of functions: delete, attra, dict, tuple, range, locals, list, len, iter, a whole bunch of stuff. And you'll learn most of these, and it probably won't take long. We could look at one like abs, ABS. I assume that returns an absolute value of something. Let's try it. So if I do abs -3, I assume it's going to return 3, and it does. Okay. Let's go back here. You don't really want to assume, of course, so what we can do is click on this, and we can go to the documentation. Turns out it does return the absolute value of a number. There we go. So we have a bunch of functions we can use. We're going to start writing our own in the next video, and then other people have written libraries of functions we can use. So there's a whole lot of resources we can use, but we're going to start with the simplest stuff that allows us to do what we need. All right, so we have a basic understanding of what a function is and a variable. Now we need to understand types, and a type is just an expected format for a piece of data. So if I have a string, I could say my name equals Leo with single quotes. I could also say my name equals Leo with double quotes. I can also say my name equals Leo with triple double quotes. I can also say there's a few more. I could use triple single quotes, and that would work. If I hit Control Enter, I don't get any errors. If I was missing one of those quotes, it should give me an error. So I know this is at least working, or at least it's valid Python code. I can also say my name equals R, single or double quotes, and that'll work, and it won't give me a problem. And I can say my name equals F, single or double quotes. I use single quotes just because I don't have to hit Shift, and it saves a keystroke. And I'm pretty sure there are other ways we could generate strings, but that's more than enough for right now. I think the important ones you want to realize are single quotes, double quotes, and this one beginning with F. So we're going to focus on those, and we'll actually just remove these for now. All right, so we're going to call this single quote name. We'll call this one double quote name. And we'll call this f-string name. What are the differences between these? Well, it turns out single and double quote are the exact same thing. Python doesn't care whether you use a single or a double quote, so it's really up to you. You generally want to be consistent just for readability of your code. But there is one advantage to using one over the other, and that's in a case where you need to have a quote inside your string. So if I wanted to, here I'll even create a new thing here. If I wanted to say, I want to create a string that says, that's cool. Okay, so that's what I want to be inside of these quotes. If I put a single quote at the beginning and at the end, first of all, notice the editor here knows something's off because the colors are all messed up. And if I run that, it's going to say it's invalid syntax. And the reason is because we have a single quote here, we have one here, this is a valid string, but the rest of this isn't valid. So what I would do if I want a string that has a single quote in it, I'd use double quotes. And now that works. And if I wanted to put a double quote in somewhere, then I would use single quote. So I could say, this is a double quote And I can put just one of those in there if I want, or two, and put a little space just so you can see that we have a double quote here, and these are single quotes, and that'll work too. So really, for single quotes and double quotes, you'll just get used to using one or the other, and every now and then you'll have to use the other one just because of a case like this. All right, the third one I want to talk about are f-strings. F-strings are Python strings that allow you to embed variables in them, and that's called string interpolation. Anytime you're learning a new language, that's one of the first things you probably want to learn, is how they handle string interpolation. So what I can do with an f-string is this. I can say my name equals Leo, and then I could say greeting equals hey. Whoop, let me put the F there. Hey, and then I can put a variable name, or I could put a Python statement. Whatever you put in here, if it's valid Python code, it will run, and it will put that in the string. So in this case, we're going to say f-string name, which is just set to Leo. Or I'm sorry, we want my name. And then we'll print that out. So you can see what it printed out was hey, space, and then inside these curly braces, the value of my name. And you'll use f-strings a lot if you're working with text. And if you're building a text-based RPG, you're going to use them quite a bit. So you'll want to get used to them. There's other ways to do this. This is the way I recommend, and we're going to stick with this for now, using f-strings. So single or double quotes when you just have a regular string, and then f using single or double quotes when you want to be able to dynamically change what's inside the string. Wow, that was quite a bit. So if you need to pause here, look over this, maybe start typing this out and trying some stuff, that's fine. Go ahead and do that. If you've done some coding before, this might be really, really simple. If you've never done coding before, this might be really, really hard. So go at your own pace. Let's go back down to the code we were writing. So we have our event ordering system. We kind of did a greeting. And now what we want to do is ask if they want a lunch pack. So we've printed their name. We're going to put this all in the same cell to make it easier. And we'll probably do some things like print name. Yeah, that's probably good the way it is. Okay. Now we'll put a space here just to kind of show that we have a little bit different section of code. So we're going to ask if they want a lunch pack. So we'll say wants lunch pack equals input, and we'll do a string. We could even do an f string. We'll say hey name, do you want a lunch pack? You'll notice I always put like a colon and a space at the end of input. That just makes it a little easier to read in the console. You could play with different endings and see how it works. And now I'm going to say, whoop. So I hit enter, so I might as well go through it. My name is Leo. Do I want a lunch pack? Yeah. Free food? I always want free food. All right, so that didn't do much. But we did find out if they want a lunch pack. So now, whoops, I got to stop hitting enter because that's not what I want to do. Or I have to stop hitting shift enter. If I just hit enter without shift or control, it's not going to run the code. So now I'm going to say if wants lunch pack equals yes, colon. Then I'm going to say, for now, we'll just say print. Here it is. All right, so now let's run this. What's my name? It's Leo. Do I want a lunch pack? yes. Here it is. They gave me my lunch pack. Now what happens if I say no? My name is Leo. I don't want a lunch pack. Nothing happened. You see that? When I said yes, it printed, here it is. But when I said no, it didn't do anything. So what we're learning about here is using conditionals to change what the program does. And the first one we're going to look at is an if statement. An if statement says, if some condition is met, then do this. And I can further this by saying else, colon, print, so long. Now let's run that and see what it does. My name's Leo. I don't want a lunch pack. So long. So we've said if lunch pack equals yes, give them the lunch pack. Otherwise, say, well, what are you doing here? This is the lunch counter. If you don't want a lunch pack, get lost. Now I want to look at this. Wants lunch pack, that's two equal signed, and then equals yes. So this is going to bring us to another variable type or data type. So we looked at strings. We haven't looked at numbers yet, but we will. And now we'll look at Booleans. A Boolean is simply true or false. And there are several ways to get true or false. One is you can manually type it in, and it's case sensitive, so you need a capital T and a capital F. If I hit enter, it's going to spit out the last thing I did there, which is fine. But most of the time, you're not typing in true. What you're doing is you're asking if something is true. So let's say this. Let's say is 1 equal to 2. This equal sign says, is this equal? Now we're going to hit enter. Is 1 equal to 2? No, of course not. Is 1 equal to 1? Sure is. Now let's do this. Input, actually we'll say selection equals input. Select a color. And then we'll say, just to see, we'll say selection equals blue. So I'm going to select a color. I'm going to say red. And it's false. Selection equals blue is false because I selected red. If we run it again and I say blue, it's going to say true. By the way, if we run it again and I say blue with a lowercase, what do you think that's going to do? Any guesses? Will that be true or false? Well, let's see. It's false. Because blue with a lowercase b is not the same as blue with an uppercase b. Everything in Python is case sensitive. Just something to know. Now, you'll notice when we were creating strings, and even here when we use a variable, when we set some value to a variable, we use a single equals. Now that equals is an assignment. That's saying set this to be this. When we use the two of them, what we're saying is tell me whether this equals this. You will 100 times in the next week or two you forget to do the equals and it'll drive you crazy, your code won't work, and it'll be because you typed equals instead of equals. It happens, you'll get used to it, and then it won't be a problem. So when we talk about this equals and then this double equals here, these are operators. Operators perform operations. They perform actions. Usually you have something on a left side and you do something with it on the right side. Now we have Boolean operators. Let's go ahead and we'll just add a new cell here. So we already saw one. Is 1 equal to 2? False. Is 1 less than or equal to 2? True. Is 1 greater than or equal to 2? False. Is 1 not equal to? True. So let's do all of these, and just to be clear, we'll say print 1 equals 2. Then we'll say print 1 greater than or equal to 2. Print 1 less than or equal to 2. Print 1 not equal to. False, false, true, true. So 1 is not equal to 2. It's not greater than or equal to 2, but it is less than or equal to 2. And it does not equal true. So 1 not equal to is true. Does that make sense? You could also do just greater than and less than. It's 1 greater than 2. It's 1 less than 2. And these are all Boolean operators that allow you to generate a true or false value. Now there are other operators, like for instance mathematical operators, where I can say 1 plus 2 is 3, or 1 times 3, or 1 times 3 isn't very interesting. How about 2 times 3, which is 6? There are many, many more, but for now, I think if we know the Boolean operators and we can add, subtract, and multiply, we can get pretty far. So that's probably enough for now. All right. Now, we've gotten this far. What else do we want to do? So we've said if you want a lunch pack, we'll give you a sandwich, and then we'll ask you if you want a soda. And then we've said if you want a soda, we'll give you a soda, and we'll ask if you want a shot of vodka to go with it. All right, so let's see how we can do this. We have this if statement where we said, do you want a lunch pack? We said, here it is. And then we said, print so long. Now, one thing we could do, we could come here and then ask our next question. If, we'll say, wants soda equals input, do you want a soda? And we'll say if wants soda equals yes, print here is a soda. And if it's not, then we're going to say else print so long. And just to be clear here, we'll say here is a sandwich. All right, so now we have two if statements, separate if statements, and let's try it out. We'll do Control Enter. My name's Leo. Do I want a lunch pack? Yes. Here's a sandwich. Do I want a soda? Yes. Here is a soda, or her is a soda. Yeah, maybe we'll spell that correctly. Okay, so part of this we know is working. We say if you want a lunch pack, and you say yes, it's going to ask if you want a soda. I said yes, it asked if I wanted a soda. All right, now what happens if I say no? What is your name? Leo. Do you want a lunch pack? No. Do you want a soda? Wait a minute. We said up here that we're only going to ask if they want a soda if they said yes to wanting a lunch pack. So this doesn't quite work, and it kind of makes sense because this code in Python runs sequentially. So we asked if you want a lunch pack, and if they said no, we said so long, but if they said yes, we said here's your sandwich. But then the program still runs, so then we ask, do you want a soda? All right, so how do we handle that? We only want to ask this question if they said, yes, I want a lunch pack. All right, I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Actually, I'm going to cut it. We're going to learn a couple things here. Let's paste that in. And let's see, we have some indenting we need here. All right. Now this is starting to look a little confusing, so maybe we can add some spaces here. Put another space, another line, empty line. And there's two things you see here. First of all, I've put this code for an if statement inside of an existing if statement. That can get pretty complicated, but we'll figure it out. And you also see we have a bunch of indenting. And this is very important in Python. In Python, the number of spaces you indent has to be consistent. This is how it determines what's a new line and what's a new expression. So if you're using 2 spaces for indents, and we need an indent for instance, an if statement, then you always have to use 2 spaces. I think I did this right. Let's go ahead and hit enter. Okay, what is my name? Leo. Do I want a lunch pack? No. So long. Hey, that worked. So we said, if I want a lunch pack, asked if I wanted a lunch pack. If it was yes, it would have printed, here's a sandwich, but instead it said no. So it jumps all the way down here and prints so long. And this code here never runs. So we've put one if statement inside another if statement. I wouldn't recommend doing that a lot. We're going to find much better ways to handle this than if statements, but this is a good start to show how they work and also to start learning how to solve problems with Python. All right, so is there anything we need to know here? I'd say that's probably pretty good. I think we've done a lot, but let's look at this if statement just to be clear. So that we would call that part of flow control. How do you control the flow of the program? An if statement is one of the ways. So we can input a number. Actually, we can input a color. My color equals input, say a color. And then we can say, we can use an if statement, which is going to be if space, whatever the condition is, my color equals red, for instance, then a colon. Now you put a new line and you indent, and you always indent the same number of spaces. And then we'll say, all right, if it is red, what do you want to do? In this case, we could just say print red is hot. And that should work. And what happens if I type in blue? Can you guess? Nothing happens because we didn't tell it to do anything. We only said if red is hot. Now, we can also say else. In other words, if this condition isn't met, what do we want to do? And in this case, we're going to put else, colon. We'll do a new line and then 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. We're going to say, how about this? Print, I do not know that color. What happens now? If I say blue, it'll print, I do not know that color. Now, what if we had multiple colors we wanted to handle? We could then say, elif, my color equals blue. We can say then, whoops, we could say something like, let me do this correctly. One of the good things about requiring the right indents is it really helps you format your code. So elif, my color equals blue. Then what we're going to do is print blue is cool. So if you should be able to trace this. We're saying if the color is red, we'll print this. Else, if it's not red and instead it's blue, we'll print blue is cool. And if it's neither of those, we'll say, well, just print I don't know that color. So let's run that a couple times. Well, I have a syntax error, so let's see what's going on here. Can anyone see what I did wrong? Take a minute and look at this. Pause if you need to. See if you can see what I did wrong. All right. I said elif my color equals blue with one equal sign, and we know when we're looking at conditionals we need to use two equal signs. Now let's try that. All right, my color, if it's red, red is hot. Let's run it again. If it's blue, blue is cool. Run it again. Brown. I don't know that color. And we could go on and on. We could then do another one. Elif my color equals brown. And we'll say brown is boring. And we'll run that. We'll say brown. Brown is boring. All right, so you see that we can have a variable or some, usually it's a variable, and we can compare it to different things with these if statements. And at the end, we can tell it, if it's none of these, I want you to do this. Now, what happens if I then go back here and I say, elif my color equals red? Print. How did we get here? What do you think will happen here if I say red? So let's run this. I'm going to say red. Input is going to set my color to be red. I have if my color equals red, print red is hot. I have some other conditions, and then down here I have the same one. If my color equals red, print how did we get here? Do you think it will print this or not? Well, it didn't. When you use an if statement and you have these elifs and elses, the first time that the condition is met, that the code underneath that will run, and then the if statement will end. So you could have multiple cases where something is true, but only the first time it's true is going to be called. You'll run into this, and so I just want you to know it now. It's not a big deal if you don't remember exactly how this works, because you can look it up, but just know that. All right, so now we understand if statements, and we also know we can put if statements inside of other ones. So now I can say if I don't know, let's say if 1 equals 1, then print this was a nested if statement. I don't know why you'd ever say if 1 equals 1, but you get the point. We have an if statement inside of another if statement. So we'll go ahead and run that. And I'll say my color is red. And since 1 does equal 1, it printed that as well. That's what we've done down here. Okay, so let's move on. We're getting pretty close. All right. Now, if they want a soda, we have their soda. So what's the next thing? We want to, if they said yes to a soda, we want to know if they want a shot of vodka. So how are we going to do that? Another if statement. So now we'll say, let's put another space just to kind of separate a little bit here. And we'll say wants shot equals input. Do you want a shot? And then we'll say if wants shot, print here is a shot. Enjoy it. And if they don't, print so long. All right. What's my name? It's Leo. Do I want a lunch pack? Yes. Do I want a soda? Yes. Do I want a shot? Yes. And here we go. So this can be a little confusing. You see these like nested if statements. It's really hard to follow. And like I said, you're not going to use this. And in fact, a lot of what you're going to learn is how to get away from using these deeply nested if statements. But for now, it's really useful to be able to do this. So we've created essentially a game called Lunch Counter, and you win the game if you say yes to each of these questions. Now, we have one problem here. What if the person is 18 and you can't give them alcohol because they're not 21? So I think we need to do a little more here. We're probably going to have to get their age. So let's do that. We have their name. Then we're going to say age equals input. And we'll say what or how old are you? Maybe put a question mark there. Okay. Now we'll have that age, and I typed impute, which I know isn't going to work. So now we can get their age, and we're going to have to do something down here. See where it says if wants shot, here's your shot. We're probably going to need to put another if statement in here. And for now, I'm just going to put a comment, so that pound sign allows you to write a comment. And we're going to say check if age is greater than or equal to 21. We don't know how to do that yet, so let's go ahead and figure that out. So we haven't really talked about numbers, but numbers are simple. If I want a number, I can say my number equals, and I can use any number, 323. And maybe I'll call that my integer. There's also floating point or decimal numbers, so we'll say my float equals 3.14. And those are all valid. Those are valid numbers. There's actually other numbers in other formats you can use, but this is the most common. And sometimes you might want to know what type a number is. And remember, types are the format you expect a piece of data to have. So we can use a command called type. And I think we looked at this already. If we didn't, I apologize. We'll use it now. So I'm going to say print type my integer. And we see the class is int. And if I want to find the type of my float, we can see that it's a float. And remember, float is just a decimal, something that has a decimal point. All right. We could also use type on a string, and it would tell us it's a string. That's fine. But we know we have numbers. Now, what happens when we input a number using the input command? So what we're going to say is age equals input. How old are you? Then we're going to say print type age. All right, I'm 47. I'm old. Getting older by the minute. Wait a minute. Let's try that again. I typed in 47. That sure looks like a number, right? Doesn't that look like an integer, like 323? Let me hit enter. No, it's a string. The thing is, this input function always returns a string. Whatever you type in, it assumes it's a string. And so what it's really returning is the equivalent of this. A number surrounded by quotes. So we don't want that. We can't really do much with this, because what we'd like to do is be able to then say, all right, we have an age. We want to compare it. We want to say like age greater than 21. And we'll say 47. Type error. Greater than not supported between instances of string and int. You can't really compare whether an integer, a number, is greater or less than a string. So what we need to be able to do is turn this into a number. So we know age is a string. We can then do something like this. We could then say int age equals int age. Then we can say int age greater or equal to 21. Let's see if this works. 47. Yep, true. And let's do it again and pretend I'm younger. Now I'm 17, and that's false. So int is a built-in function, and you can see it here in this documentation, ifgh I, here we go, and returns an integer. Now, this can actually get kind of complex, but we're not going to worry about that too much right now. Just know that when we use input, we're inputting text, and if we want it to be a number, we have to convert it to a number using int. All right, so now we can finish our program. What we want to do is say, if they're 21, give them the shot. If not, then we're going to say so long or something like that. So now, if want shot, we're going to say age equals input. Oh, we already got the age up here. We don't even have to do that. So we can say if int age greater or equal to 21, we'll print and set that there. Here's a shot, enjoy it. Else, we'll print, are you trying to get me arrested? All right, here's a complete program, and using this kind of format, you could create the beginning, actually a complete, small but complete role-playing game. Let's try it and see if I've made any mistakes. What is your name? Leo. How old are you? 47. Do you want a lunch pack? Yes. Do you want a soda? No. Oh, yes. Do you want a shot? Yes. All right. I got everything there. Then we could try a different path through this and say, my name is Leo. 17. Do I want a lunch pack? Yes. Do I want a soda? Yes. And do I want a shot? Yes. You trying to get me arrested? Wow. We covered a lot of stuff right here. It doesn't look like much, just a few lines of code, but if you've never written code before, this is a lot. We've covered built-in functions, input, output, variables, types, operators. I didn't even get into methods and isDecimal. We'll have to move that to the next video. We talked about flow control, and this is going to be, it could be difficult. So it's okay to walk through this slowly. Rewatch the video, write the code yourself. Here's a couple exercises to help you. Just two, I think. Three. First is, I want you to find the rules for naming variables. So I had these variables named like single quote name, double quote name, my integer, age, my name. I want you to find the rules that tell you what you can name a variable. You should be able to search that on Google, or, does anyone use Bing? If you do, you could probably search there. Second one, just want you to write some code that asks for a name and an age, and then prints a greeting with the age in dog years. So that's going to use input. We know that inputting the age is going to give you a string, so you'll have to convert that to an integer. And then you'll have to do something to convert that age into dog years, which equals years times 7. And then finally, you'll write an if statement that asks for a favorite color and congratulates the person if that favorite color matches yours. These should be pretty quick, but again, if you're brand new at this, it could be tough. And then, of course, you're going to do your project, and you are going to complete a full text-based role-playing game. That role-playing game will have to have 3 levels, level 1, level 2, and level 3, and they will have to answer a question correctly to get through each level. And we'll have more information in the blog post or a video on that project. So I hope this worked well for you. I hope you learned, and let's use the forum at the bottom to ask people questions and help each other out. There's no need to struggle forever. If you need help, ask for it, and someone in this community will help you. I guarantee it. All right. Have fun.